Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen. Today's recipe, I'm going to show you a very festive sweet, and that's a Badusha. It's a sweet that my mother never missed making every Diwali, and I sort of continue that tradition because it's one of my favorite sweets. One of the key ingredients that goes into making the Badusha, apart from the flour, is the ghee, and using the right quality ghee is extremely important, and I'm going to be using GRB ghee today. So without wasting any time, let me just dive right in and show you the step-by-step process of how to make Badusha. So making of the Badusha is a three-step process. First is to make the dough, second is to fry the dough, and after that you have to soak the dough in sugar syrup. And yeah, simple three-step process which brings in great flavors and taste. And one of the most important ingredients is using the right quality ghee. And I truly believe that using the right quality ghee brings the richness in the food, especially sweets. And today I'm going to be using GRB ghee, which has become synonymous with purity, has a perfect granulation, a great aroma and homemade taste. And all those are some of the special qualities that a ghee must have. So let's just get started in making the dough for the Badusha. So into a large mixing bowl, I'm going to go ahead and add in my flour, some salt, just a little bit of soda. And I'm going to go ahead and mix all these dry ingredients first, okay? Now all that the dry ingredients are combined, I'm just going to go ahead and measure a little bit of ghee and then add it, and I'm going to be using GRB ghee like I mentioned. The GRB ghee has a perfect aroma of purity and a granulation, giving it that homemade touch. So I'm just going to go ahead and measure the ghee into my cup. Always like to use the right measurements because then you get the correct texture to your sweet and any other dish that you make. We'll add the ghee in. And I'm going to now rub the ghee well into the flour until it gets well combined. And I'm going to share a texture that you must keep in mind while making Badusha. That's when you know you've added the right amount of ghee as well. So just rub the ghee well into the flour. Okay, and this step is extremely important. Wonderful. Notice that it's getting a coarse crumb texture. The moment you start rubbing the ghee into the flour, it becomes like a coarse crumb texture. This is good. So which essentially means that the amount of ghee that we added was just right for the quantity of flour. And when you hold the flour together, it should just hold itself, and you sort of tap it, it should break. And that's when you know that you have added the right amount of ghee. Great, so this looks good. Combined it well. Now my next step is to add the yogurt, which is the dahi. Homemade dahi is good, and we'll just add that in. This is also measured, and I'm going to keep mixing it until it forms a nice smooth dough. And we really don't have to add any water. The amount of curd that I've added is just about the right amount, and if you feel, then you can go ahead and add a tablespoon of more curd at a time if required, or a teaspoon of more curd at a time if required, to combine it to make a nice smooth dough. Okay? It has to be nice and smooth, and we're going to be kneading the dough really well. So now that all the flour has come together and formed a nice dough, ensure that you knead well until it becomes nice and smooth for a good 2 to 3 minutes. So now that I've kneaded the dough well, I'm going to now shape the dough into balls and then cover it and then keep it aside for about 15 minutes. So in that process, the dough will fluff up a little bit because we've added baking soda, and then the dahi, which will make it react and rise a little bit, act as a leavening agent. Great, so now my next step is to essentially shape it and then allow it to rest for about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll deep fry it. Okay, so divide the dough into about lemon-sized balls, I would say, a little large lemon-sized balls or medium lemon-sized balls based on how small or large you want your Badushas to be. Ensure that you shape the dough and roll it out into a nice ball, and until it's nice and smooth and it doesn't have cracks around it, and that's critical. Okay, and well, if it has cracks, don't worry, the Badusha will still taste nice. And then after that, just put a hole in the center like that, like a donut. Okay, and there you go. It doesn't have to be a complete hole right to the end. It just has to have like a dent in the center. That's it. So now that I've shaped the dough, I'm going to go ahead and cover it with a muslin cloth and allow it to rest for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then after that we'll deep fry them. For deep frying, I'm going to be using GRB ghee, so I'm just going to go ahead and add it into my pan. And ensure when you're deep frying ghee, it's not on high heat, but is always on medium heat or low to medium heat. That's when you get the right temperature for the ghee, and you'll get a perfect a dish or a sweet when you're deep frying it. Okay, so let's just wait for it to get preheated, and then we will deep fry these badushas. So now that the ghee is preheated, I'm just going to go ahead and slide in my badushas right into the ghee, and we'll fry a few at a time based on the size of your pan. And ensure that you keep flipping and turning it so that it just doesn't get stuck to the bottom. It will slowly rise to the top. Okay. And you have to fry these badushas on low to medium heat. I would say medium heat would be a right heat until it becomes golden brown and crisp on both the sides. It needs to get cooked from the inside as well. Remember, this is just fried dough and it needs to get cooked from the inside, and so it's important, very important, that you fry it on medium heat so it gets evenly fried on both the sides and on the inside as well. So be very patient and just treat it very, very gently, and then flip and turn it around as it's getting deep fried, and so it gets fried evenly. Alright, so it's been frying for about 5 minutes now. Yes, about 5 minutes it takes to fry a set of badushas on medium heat so that it gets perfectly cooked from the inside as well. And notice how beautifully crisp it has become, and it's got that flakiness as well. That's because of the ghee that we added, and also that we are frying it in ghee too, and it becomes really delicious. And it's got a nice golden crust, and this is how you want it to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and drain these badushas onto a paper towel, and after that fry the remaining badushas, and then I'm going to show you how to make a sugar syrup, which is going to be coating these badushas and giving it another delicious taste. And for the sugar syrup, into a pan, add in water and the sugar. So now I'm going to dissolve the sugar in the water until it comes to a single thread consistency. So now let's first stir to dissolve the sugar well into the water and allow it to come to a brisk boil. Once the sugar dissolves in water is when you increase the heat and allow it to come to a brisk boil. Okay, so notice that the sugar is bubbling and boiling, and when you lift it off the spoon, it'll fall like a long string and it'll stretch itself, and that final stretch is what tells you that it's reached that consistency. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn off the heat now, otherwise the sugar will crystallize. So now that the sugar syrup is done, I'm just going to first go ahead and add in the cardamom powder into the syrup and just give it a good mix. That's it, and ensure you do it while it is hot. And after that, I'm just going to go ahead and dip each one of these fried badushas into the syrup and just simply coat it, right, and with the syrup. And you'll notice that the syrup will start thickening up as it's resting, and it'll get well coated on the badusha, and that's just perfect. This is exactly how you want it to be. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and coat each one of these badushas in the syrup, and then top it up with some pistachios. So I hope you enjoyed watching the recipe of how to make the badushas. Do give this a try during this festive season, and I'm sure that you'd love it. Follow all the simple steps and tips that I shared with you in this video, and do let me know how you liked it in the comments below. Take a snapshot of it and tag us across all your social channels, and I would love to hear from you. So until then, until next time, happy cooking and healthy eating.